We're out here in my backyard, and now we're going to build a box with all the materials that we bought at the Lowe's. I'm here with Farmer Willie again from Miller City Farms. So I'm going to build this box. Where do I put it? I don't really have a lot of space in the backyard. What do I need to be thinking about?
Sunlight and a concern for water runoff.
Okay, so sunlight. I got a couple trees here. They don't really have any leaves on them now, but I guess that they would when...
They will very soon.
Yes, we're in wintertime, so you don't want to put it anywhere near any trees. So one of the problems that I have is my yard is not that big. I live in an apartment complex. I'm just a councilman, I'm not balling out. I don't have acres and farms and whatnot. So what if there's like no place in my yard? I guess this is actually a time where you want to talk to your neighbors. Maybe you can build a box together. That way you wouldn't even have to cut the 4x4s in half. You could actually have a 4x8 box.
Correct.
That two people could work in, and you could feed a family of 8. So if you live in a complex like me, and that's or a highly populated area, that's something that you may want to consider, because we're going to go a little farther out. We're out here sort of in the center of a couple of different yards. You're saying out here, we're away from these trees that are over here, so we are away from anything that's going to have shade. We have plenty of sun in this area. You also talked about erosion, so I see this is where, I don't know, we're kind of sloping down here. We probably don't want to put it right here in this area, right?
Correct.
Because that would have water running underneath the box.
Yeah.
So here?
Most ideal spot.
All right.
It's at the top of the hill, so you don't have to worry about the water running. It's not going to be as bad here. But most importantly, you're far enough away from the trees that when the leaves are on the trees, you don't have to worry about all the shade in your box. And because the sun is going to rise in the east and it's going to set in the west, you're going to get the most sunlight from the back part of your property in this very spot.
All right, so if you are new to the area, or you just maybe haven't been paying attention to where the sun rises and sets, I think while we're on quarantine, maybe during a lockdown, we're probably going to pay a lot more attention to nature, right?
I would agree.
You can use your cell phone. All the cell phones usually have a compass already in them. If not, you can download it from your iTunes or Google Play Store. Just download a compass app. It'll look something like this. And then I hold it like this, right, Willie?
Yeah.
And just move it around.
Yep.
They may ask you to shake it or do a little something to calibrate it. But then once you have that, it's going to show you where north, south, east, west is. East is this way, west is here. So the sun rises in the east, sets in the west. You want to put your box someplace in the middle, so at high noon or during the daylight hours, it gets the most amount of sunlight. Here we are. We're going to build a box. We're doing it here on a flat surface. Why?
Because we're building a square, and it's much easier to build a box when you're dealing with a level platform. So putting it on your driveway or somewhere that's some concrete that's actually level is going to make sure that the box comes out level and pretty even. Just
got a hammer from home, and we got our nails here from Lowe's that we bought the box of, and then we're just gonna nail it in. So I could just take it and start doing it here, or like, what do I?
Well, the trick is that you're building a square. So what you want to do is you want to first line all of your ends up. Get everything pretty level.
Mm-hmm.
Once it's squared in, then you can actually take a nail. You can start driving the nail until it starts coming out on the back side. Once it starts coming out, then you can just finish the nailing portion.
Wait, tell me about why you have your leg here on the box.
Well, because you're building a square. And if you don't put some weight on this backboard, what happens is every time you strike it, the box is just going to continually move, which means that you're going to go from having a square to a rectangle. And we're building a square, a box, not a rectangle.
So some of you all know this. Some of us, maybe wood shop wasn't our thing. Just a little basics. We're going to show you everything here, so you won't be overwhelmed at all. All right, so I want to try it.
All right.
So I'm going to put my knee here to keep this level.
Yep.
And do I just go straight down? Does it matter what kind of order I go in?
Well, the order should be you want to drive your top nail first, your bottom nail second, and your middle nail, you want to do it last.
All right. I'm building boxes, y'all. All right. And then we just have to do all 4 sides. Should I put all 3 in so that they...
No, I will go on and just continue to drive that first one.
All right.
That's going to keep your board from dancing so much. Now, take the nail, and then look at the bottom. If you see at the bottom, it's not as flush. So what you want to do is make sure that you kind of press it out a little bit before you start driving your nail.
Press it out. What do you mean?
This board should be at a 90-degree angle, up and down. So take your hand and push it out because you're trying to get it where it's level with this board.
I got you.
As far as you can. And now you start driving your nail.
All right, so we built our box, and now we're going to move it out to our sunny spot. So, all right, you going to help me?
First, let me show you what you need to do in order to move it, because most of the people who are going to do this, they're going to do it alone. So, real simple. Step in the center of your box, grab the side, step back, and then lift and put on your shoulder. You don't want to roll it. You don't want to drag it. If you're short, you're not going to really be able to grab it in the center. So these are all the things that people need to be aware of. So it's much easier just to grab it, lift it, put it on your shoulder, and then you can just walk straight forward. So let you get a try at that.
All right. So for the record, I'm not that short. I mean, I could do it like that, but I'm just going to do it like he said for the other people.
All right, back.
Yep.
On your shoulder.
On my shoulder.
Let's walk it out.
And I'm going to walk it out. Okay, so we're out here with our box, and now we're going to put it down on the ground. You may remember when we were shopping at Lowe's, we talked about putting something underneath the box before we put the dirt in so the weeds weren't coming up. So you can buy some plastic wrap if you're balling out like that. You could buy some plastic wrap, but for those of us here on that trying to make $1 out of 15 cents, we just cut up some trash bags, some everyday trash bags in our house. That's going to be the plastic that we put down first, right?
Right.
And then we're going to put this cardboard over it.
That is correct.
All right, so let's, I guess we need to lay this down first. Yep. Okay. And this is where we're setting it up, so we should probably move this out the way.
Now, lay the bags up.
So again, the bags are to keep the weeds in this grass here from growing up into our box. We don't want that choking our plants, our fruits and our vegetables.
The other one over here. I'll grab this side. A little windy.
A little windy. I got a little broom here to help keep it down.
So now if you would, grab the cardboard, and I'll hold this in place while you grab the cardboard.
Now this is where you might need help. Get your neighbors, get your kids, put your kids to work. They ain't been in school, put them to work.
Or use some of the bags.
All right.
To hold things in place. All right.
This is a cardboard box. I just got this out of a dumpster. Again, you know, if you want to be fancy, you can buy all these materials at your Lowe's or your Home Depot, but we out here thugging it.
All right, get that out. And now you have your platform in place for your box.
And we just put our box on top here.
Yep.
All right. Remember, you don't want to drag it.
Center, like that.
All right. Now this is where we make our recipe with all the dirt ingredients that we got at the store. What goes in first?
So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to go over and get your peat moss. It's in a container. We want to make sure that we kind of shake it a little bit because
Got my gloves.
Yep, this is compressed. Go around, hit the side of the bag.
What does that do?
What that does is actually loosens up some of the clumps that are inside.
Makes it easier to pour out.
Yep. Cut your top off.
Now, how much are we putting the whole bag in there?
Well, for this particular section, I will start off with putting the full bag in. We can always take some out if necessary, but because most people are not going to be able to measure it properly, I would just dump the whole bag over.
Okay.
Keep going.
I see why you shook it up, trying to get the clumps out.
Yep. As you see, it is one big compressed ball. Some is going to fall on the ground on the side. That's fine.
You can make a mess, you're outside.
Exactly.
If you have kids, this is a great activity to do with your children. And you can keep this up beyond this coronavirus crisis, right? You can grow vegetables and fruits year round. You can teach your kids this is where the food in the store actually comes from. And this will be healthier food. We're using organic materials. You can control what pesticides are or are not on your fruits and vegetables. So this is a great way to just connect as a family and eat healthier.
Yep. And the kids are going to love it because it gives them an opportunity to get out and
Play in the dirt.
Play in the dirt. This is real light and fluffy, so the roots can really get down through to get all the nutrients that they need.
This black cow compost, this is cow manure. Just so you know what it is, what we're about to spread out, what it's gonna smell like, and what it's gonna be in this bag. Not excited to touch this. So how do I get this in there
Well,
without putting my hands on?
simply grab the bottom of the bag,
Okay.
hold the top, pour it over the way you would any trash or any container.
Now wait, are we putting this whole bag in the box?
The exact same thing as the other. We'll put the
Okay.
whole. These are all full measurements. Yep. Spread it over as evenly as you can because we're going to work it in. Yep. Keep coming with it. Keep coming. Keep coming. Keep coming. So you guys just saw me kind of sniff this. Good compost has zero aroma to it. That's how you know that it is ready to be put into your soil. It doesn't smell spoiled, doesn't smell like manure out in the field with a cow. It smells like earth.
Now I'm not doing all that because I mean, you know, I have grandparents that grew up on a farm, but I'm from Onat. I can tell you that it doesn't smell.
Yeah, we want to break the clumps up, and then once we break them all up, then what we start doing is start mixing the soil together. Like I said, we're mixing, it's like making biscuits, if you've ever made biscuits using your hand. If you've never made biscuits, this is just simply you just mixing the dirt.
You're mixing it up. So
Yep.
is this when they say you're tilling the soil, is this kind of like,
It is exactly what you're doing.
okay. You see the big tractors out there doing that? We're just doing this by hand.
Yep. And you want to do it as evenly as you possibly can because, again, once you put your seeds in, you want your seeds to have access to all of the nutrients, and you don't want them just sitting on top of the soil. You want it worked into the dirt. Level, as flat as possible.
And we got one more thing we got to add, right?
Yep.
As we are putting this, as we are mixing this up, I'm feeling some kind of way. One of the beautiful things about what's happening now is that, and I'm saying this to the residents of the blackest city in America, South Fulton, Georgia, many of our ancestors did this work for generations without gloves, right? Like we put our hands in the dirt and we tilled the soil by hand.
Right.
So we're really getting back to some of the things that many of our grandparents and parents have been doing for hundreds of years in this country.
I agree.
You know, maybe you're from New York or Detroit, but your grandmama was from Mississippi or Louisiana. And it's beautiful to just get back to this sort of natural farming.
Right.
The last thing is our fertilizer. This is our plant food. Now, we're not gonna put this whole bag in here, right?
We're not. We're going to just use a teaspoon at a time. So for this, Your first planting, what you're going to do is you're going to just put enough in to work into the soil so that as the seeds are growing, they have food when it comes up. And then throughout the season, we're just going to add just a little bit more. But we'll talk about that at a later time.
Okay, we'll talk about that when we put the seeds out.
Yeah.
So I got a spoon from the house. I know some of y'all are like, I ain't gonna be using my spoons. You get a plastic spoon from your to-go. I actually looked for a plastic spoon. I didn't have one, so. We got soap and water at the house. All right, so you can see, I'm gonna put some of this in my hand. It looks like bird food,
Yep.
kind of smells like bird food. So, actually smells like kitty litter.
Yes.
I'm gonna take a teaspoon, like just a teaspoon?
No,
This-
so good question. So everyone's hand is a different size. So what you want to do, we're using the tablespoon to help measure. So open your hand,
Uh-huh.
put 4 tablespoons in there. 1, 2, full tablespoon. 3, 4. Now you have that handful. Now hold your hand, and what you want to do is you want to try to spread it as evenly as you possibly can. Yep.
I'm gonna do 4 little quadrants. So when I run out, do I just get some more? Like how many times should I do this for the whole box?
You're going to repeat this 4 times. So you have that quadrant.
1, 2,
2,
3,
3,
4.
4.
So
Yep.
I'm just gonna grab it now because I kind of see how much it is, and you know, I don't like to follow instructions. What happens if I put too much or too little? How will I know?
Well, when you're dealing with organic fertilizer, you don't have to worry about putting too much initially. So that's not a concern. But once your plants grow up and you put too much in, something could happen that's called burn. So the fertilizer has a lot of nitrogen in it, which is what makes the leaves on the outside big and green and pretty. Well, too much nitrogen could cause those exact same greens that are large and green. It could cause them to wither on the end because there's too much nutrient. It's kind of like if you eat a lot and you get fat. Well, in the plant world, when they eat a lot, what they tend to do is curl on the outside, letting you know that, hey, I got too much. You can stop feeding me that amount. And then what you do is you just water. And then after a while, they'll start growing at their natural pace again.
So if you see your ends looking kind of crazy,
Yep.
you put too much. You just need to calm down a little bit with the fertilizer.
Yep. So it's not one of those signs where you say, well, a little bit of fertilizer will cause them to grow at this speed. Let me feed them a whole
Let me
lot.
put the whole bag in, and it's gonna
Nah.
make the plants grow in 2 weeks.
This is not Jack and the Beanstalk.
All right, so we got the fertilizer. Do we need to mix it like we did with the other things?
We do.
Okay.
And what's different? See how you're going down deep in your hands? Don't do that. Turn
you
your
just
hands
wanna mix
over
with the
like you're
top.
playing the
Okay.
piano. Put your paws in. And like that. Squeeze, squeeze.
Okay.
The kids, they love this part. Squeeze, squeeze. And all you're doing, and that's how you're mixing it. That way the fertilizer doesn't go so deep down in the bottom where the roots of the plant can't reach it.
I can see kids having fun with this.
Oh yeah, our 4-year-old and 7-year-old, they love it.
All right, then you want to make it level again?
Yep, level it back out. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to measure off our quadrants so we can see where we're going to plant our seeds. So this box is a 4x4. We don't plant everything in the same space. We want to utilize the space as best as possible. So what we do is we're going to go and get us an old broom or some long pole, long enough to reach from the other side, and we're essentially going to draw lines. That will be one quadrant. That's another quadrant. That's another quadrant. And then that's another quadrant. So essentially you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different areas that you would plant in.
Okay.
And then you would plant your seeds in this area, plant your seeds in this area, and so on and,
And
so
so
on.
it's like we got our own little farmer's field here. So we'll put
Yes.
certain kind of seeds here, certain kind of seeds here. Got it.
Yep. And then that way all of your plants are not so close together, because the other thing is that when you're using your seeds, you're putting your seeds in the soil, you want things to not be so close together so they can get plenty of air in between, and they're not competing for nutrients. So you want to give them enough space in between their friends or their family members so that they can all get an ample amount of nutrients and grow big and strong.
So the broom is right behind you. What are we doing with the broom here? If you just can't make a straight line.
And here's something that could maybe help some of the people home. If you have an elementary student, many of the elementary students have rulers, the flat little ruler. What you can do is you can take that ruler and lay it on the board, and you can count over 6 inches. And 6 inches is where this line is going, where you're going to place that line.
So you can get real precise with it.
Yep.
Okay. All right.
But today we're just going to rig it. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to get our seeds.
Okay, now we get the seeds.
Yep.
So farming takes time. It takes a little time. This is also really great. As I've said before, kids really get to see how much work it takes to make the food that magically appears at the supermarket that sometimes we take for granted. We buy too much, we throw it out. All right, so what are we going to plant first?
And so we have our kale, we have our spinach, we have our spicy mix.
Okay.
And so these are all of our spring flowers and spring vegetables that we're going to put in place. And we're going to do it in such a way where now we're going to find the center of this 4 and we're going to come across here this way. That way we will have some things planted on this side and then we have other things planted on that side.
Okay.
And so I'll give you the kale for that side and I'll have the spinach right here.
Okay.
I'll give you the other mixed green for that side and I'll have another variety of kale right here.
So just out of curiosity, if we're in a rush, if people see this video and weeks from now and they've only got a few weeks, what green grows the fastest?
The green that's going to grow the fastest is the one that you have over there, what's called your spicy mix.
Mescaline.
Yes. In 21 days, it is a mature green.
I've seen these bags of mescaline in the stores. I kind of don't like it because I feel like it's a little bitter.
Yep.
But this grows in 21 days. What takes a little longer, the spinach and the kale?
The kale, if you look on the back of each bag, as was mentioned before, it has how long it takes the plant to mature. So it says here, harvest in 50 days. Now what they're saying in 50 days, this plant will be a huge plant that you can pull the leaves from. But in all actuality, you can start picking from this plant in about 14 days. In 14 days, it's going to start coming up and you have what they call little microgreens. If you give it 21 days, the green will be a little larger. And so that way you can pull greens from it all throughout the stage of growth.
So how do you pick the greens, but like you want it to keep growing? So like, is there a way that I can pick it so that it'll keep growing and I can just come pick off a few every day?
That's a great question. So each plant that grows, it has a main stalk. And that main stalk comes up and it grows straight up. Off sides of that stalk is where your leaves are going to come. What you want to do is you want to pick or pluck the leaves off the side of the shoot. When you do that, that allows the main plant or the head to continue to grow and produce other smaller shoots. And you will have a plant that you can use or eat from all season long if you do it that way. You never pull it out of the ground. You only are pulling the leaves from off the side. And we'll have videos in the future that shows you exactly what that looks like.
Absolutely. Please visit millercityfarms.com for dozens of videos and explanations on how to grow throughout this entire process. You can get information to become a better farmer. Okay. So, going to start opening these up now?
Let's open them up. Let's start with your kale right here.
Okay, starting with my kale.
Yep. Open your bag, open your top. Yep.
Can I just rip it off? Do I need to save any? Like,
you want to shake and make sure that all of the seeds settle to the bottom of the pack, because sometimes you have some at the top and you don't want to lose your seeds. This is a time where you want to keep all of your seeds. Well, the first thing you want to do is you're going to want to remove your gloves.
Okay.
Because these seeds are extremely small, so you need to have the full use of your
my
finger.
hand. Look, we're getting natural, man. We're getting back to the earth here.
All right, and so now open the pack. Stick your finger in. Yep, make a nice hole, and then pour them in your hand.
Like how many? Like
pour all of them in your hand.
All of them?
Yep, the whole bag right there in your hand. Okay. Now you can just set that on the side.
Look, I kept a couple in there just in case I mess up.
That's cool. So now you didn't remove your other glove
Okay.
because you're gonna need your fingers. So now what you're doing is you're going in your center of your hand with your right hand, pick them up, and you're just gonna sprinkle them across the top, just like that. You're gonna have about 80 to 90% of the seeds that are gonna become actual fruit or actual vegetables.
So these are actually little greens that I'm putting in the ground now.
All right, so now the rest, you can put those back in the bag.
So I use probably about half this bag.
And so now with this straight line, what you want to do is take your hand and follow the line of where you see the seeds and simply press them into the
the
soil. Because this soil is so soft,
Light and fluffy. It's fluffy, y'all.
you don't have to come back in and cover them at all, because by you pressing them like that, you just press them into the soil. And the thing about your seeds, you don't want to push them down too far. The rule of thumb is to look at your finger, from the tip of your finger to the very first line in your finger is as deep as you want to go into the soil.
That's about how deep I went.
Exactly.
So just one little press. Okay.
And so we will repeat this in all of these sections with other seeds. The benefit of planting your green seeds is that you have the ability to plant them a little closer together. So the real estate that we have, this is considered to be our real estate. We want to use or utilize the most of this real estate. So we have one row here, which is at 6 inches, another row here, and then we're going to come right between those two rows, which will be 3 inches.
So when I did this here, I made another little divot right here just by pressing it. So right here in the middle with greens, you're saying we can add more.
That
now,
is correct.
The other ones that are a little bit further apart, when we do our beans, they're going to need a little bit more space.
Our beans, our tomatoes, cucumber, squash, those things will need just a little bit more space. So we will keep those at the 6-inch mark. But over here with the greens, we're going to put down as many greens as we possibly can in the space that we have.
So I like kale. I'm going to go back to this kale. I like kale and mustard. Some people just like collard. Can we do collard greens now?
We could do collard greens.
Okay, because you know our people, we love some collard greens.
Yeah, we can do collard greens. Our okra will go in this section,
Okay.
and our beans will go in this section, but they're not going in the ground today.
Okay.
And the reason that we're going to hold off on that is because in Georgia, we are in fear or concerned about cold snaps up until about April the 15th. So we have the possibility of temperatures dropping down into the 30s. And the
You're right. This is Georgia. It's 70, 60, 70 degrees today. It'll be raining. Then the next thing you know, it'll be 90. Then it'll be 30 again.
Correct. And for that reason, we put the greens down because they can tolerate a lot of cold. But when you start thinking about your summer vegetables, like your okra, like your tomatoes, like your cucumbers, the soil needs to be a consistent 70 degrees.
And so this is again like a teaching moment, not just for our kids, but these are things that we as a people used to just know, right? That there are certain foods come in certain seasons. I remember I would ask my mom for collard greens, and she would be like, it's not the season for collard greens. I'm
Right.
like, what are you talking about? There's always collard greens in the store. She'd be like, those aren't good collard greens.
Right.
I didn't understand that's really a summer green. So if you're getting collard greens in the winter, you're either getting them from South America or somewhere where it's
Correct.
summertime, or you're just not getting good collard greens.
That is correct. And
All
so
right.
that same thing even applies here. So what we can do, if you guys really want to utilize your space, you can still plant greens in all of this area. And then once April the 15th comes, you've picked off those greens, you can now pull those greens up, the roots up, the full plant up, and then you can start planting your tomato plants in that space. That
Now-
would be the best way to utilize your space.
Now about that, when you pick a plant up, well, let me ask this part first. So what time do you start putting out? What month should I start putting out the okra?
Your okra should start going into the ground after April 15th.
After tax day, y'all. And then your tomatoes.
Same thing for your tomatoes.
Okay, so that's when that next season starts.
Yes.
And you see, you have farmers that are always looking at almanacs and people talking about it talks about and looks like rain. And
Correct.
This is why people keep track of the seasons, y'all. So like this is how our food gets grown.
Yep.
So let's say I put greens out everywhere. I'm not doing that because that's too much work. I got enough greens right here. But if I were to switch the vegetables out, do I have to like clean the ground? Do I have to make sure I get all the roots out? Like how do I go from planting one vegetable in one place to switching it out to a different vegetable or a fruit?
You want to extract the entire plant. So when you pull the plant, your biggest concern is that it's going to have a huge what's called root bottom. This root bottom is holding on to all of the soil.
That's the big ball that's kind of at the bottom. Okay.
So when you pull it out of the ground, what you want to do is shake as much of the soil out of it as you possibly can, because this is prime real estate. So we want to put all of the soil back in, and then you just cast the plant off somewhere, put it in the trash, or if you have a compost area, you can do that. But that's how you do it.
And then so let's say I really get into this farming thing and I want to do this every year. Do I start the same way? Do I put my greens back here every year and my okra here and my tomato? Like, do I put stuff in the same place, or do I need to rotate? I've heard about like rotating. Tell me about that.
Well, this section is very small, so rotating is not going to be as large of an issue for you as if you had rows and rows. So in America, when we farm, we do what's called monocrops. So that means that we have one plant or one variety of something that we grow, but we do rows after rows after rows. We have to rotate those because you can have bugs that will eat on your corn, for example, goes to your field every year because it knows every year there's going to be corn there.
They're like the corn is right there.
Exactly. So what we would do, instead of planting corn this year, next year we may plant soybean. So
And
the
then you
bugs
plant
will
the
go there and
corn
say,
over
wait
here.
a minute, there's no corn there. And you don't have to worry about the pests eating up your food because the food that they like is not there. But for here, we don't have to worry about rotating. What we would do is simply plant something on the front side this year, and then maybe plant it on the back side the next year.
Okay.
That's it.
We've got our seeds in the ground. We talked about how to keep them safe, so we're gonna build the little wire fence, but we also bought some things that we can put in here, right, that like ward off insects. What are those?
The most ideal is going to be something called marigolds.
Okay.
So marigolds is basically a flower that gives off a perfume that attracts bees and things that are going to help pollinate to grow your vegetables. But on the other side, it also gives off a similar aroma that repels many of the pests that will eat many of your vegetables. So what we would do is...
And it looks like you get a little pretty flower. You can have some flowers, get it all classy in your house.
Oh yeah, you can definitely use that. And the flowers are also edible.
Oh wow, okay.
So that's another thing, but you may want to look at some information online of some good recipes to do that. So essentially what you would do is, wherever you're planting your tomato plant, or wherever you're going to plant your cucumber. So if you have a tomato plant over in this section of the box, the very opposite side of the box is where you would plant your marigold. And you're going to plant it on the opposite side because one marigold seed produces a huge bouquet of flowers.
So for example, I'm going to save this for my tomatoes and this for my okra.
Correct.
So when I plant my tomatoes after April 15th, I'll come over here, I might pull up my kale and put the marigolds right here.
That is correct.
Okay.
And that way, now you have this bouquet, and it's going to bring all your bees, which are now going to see your tomatoes. They're going to cross-pollinate your tomatoes, so you're going to have an abundance of tomatoes or cucumbers. But it's also going to create like a barrier around your box with the aroma to ward off some of the worms and some of the other pests that also like your tomatoes.
Now, there are going to be some worms and at some point when you come and dig your hands in the ground, there are going to be some insects and things. So
right.
That's part of nature. You might want to get your gloves and put them back on. But talking about protecting your box and borders, so I'm in the hood, and we got a couple stray dogs, stray cats running around here. So how do I protect that? Is this where we're going to use the fence?
Yes, this
Okay.
is where you can put the fence around the box.
All right. Thank you. Oh, I'm getting the hang of it. All right, so we're done. We got our box, we've watered it, we put up our little security netting, and in a few days, well, a few weeks, we're gonna have food to feed our families and feed our communities.
Right.
Now, if anything does get in here, Can we still eat the food that comes out of here?
You can. You just want to make sure that you wash everything that comes out of your box. That's the biggest thing. Part of the issue that we're dealing with Corona is that people did not do a good job with washing their hands. So with food safety is equally important. You want to make sure that you're washing your hands, and you also want to make sure that you're washing your food. So when you come out here, if there's any animal that did get in and you see some poop, simply take the poop, throw it out. You can leave your food in here. Most pathogens that are going to be on the food, on the poop, are going to be gone within about 24 to 48 hours. So you don't have to worry about that as much, but you do want to make sure that you're doing a great job of washing your food anytime you pull it from the box outdoors. It's going to be tempting when you get around to those tomatoes to just pluck them off and start eating them. You want to make sure that you take those in too.
We wash our food. That's not a, we're gonna handle that. So all of this information and more you can find at millercityfarms.com.
As well as our Facebook page, which is facebook.com/Miller City Farm.
We're gonna have more videos about not just farming, but all sorts of things that you can do to have a happier, more successful, more efficient time if you find that you're going to be quarantined. We got another video coming up talking about homeschooling your kids. So please go to youtube.com/Khalid Cares to find these videos. You can find out all information about the coronavirus and everything that you need to detect signs and symptoms, get tested, and get all of this information about sheltering in place at khalidcares.com/survive. That's KHALID as in Delta cares.com/survive. South Fulton forever.